The Russians were planning to attack Ukrainian positions with Safari ATVs. The attack UAV operators of the 12th Special Purpose Brigade Azov spotted the plan and immediately sent UAVs to the area, pushing the Russians back. As a result of the UAV strikes, the Russian contingent, which was planning to raid kululs, trenches, and warehouses, was dispersed. ATVs were destroyed. Many infantrymen hid. The 65th Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade's SUV was attacked immediately after being spotted by Ukrainian paratroopers. As a result of the drone attack, 2 Russian infantrymen got out of the damaged vehicle and ran into the woods to hide. They then tried to hide in the ruined bunker, but a second drone attack took place. A group of Russian soldiers are in a damaged building. These soldiers are firing heavy machine guns at a Ukrainian tank. The tank opened fire, targeting Russian troops in the building. A drone attack on the building followed. The Ukrainian tank fired consecutive cannon shots at the Russian troops in the building. Tanks at a Russian armored column in the Kursk region of Russia are blown up. Russian armored vehicles, tanks, and vehicles for various purposes were destroyed at the Yantarny location. The tanks and armored personnel carriers were attacked one after the other in a coordinated effort by the operators of the FPV drones. The explosives on the FPV drones do not have great power, but if they can target the right spot on the tanks or armored vehicles, they can destroy the vehicles. Especially since FPV drones have a low cost and are used for many different purposes, they are used very frequently on the battlefield. Repelling of big Russian assault by 79th Air Assault Brigade. As Russian tanks and armored vehicles advanced in columns, they were shaken by artillery shelling from the 47th Mechanized Brigade. Communicating with drones, the 47th Artillery attacked Russian armored vehicles with 122mm howitzers and mortars. The armored vehicle, which panicked during the attack, went off the road and turned over. The drones provided accurate calculations and information, which enabled the artillery to strike with pinpoint accuracy. The Russian troops were dispersed and repulsed. Kursk region. Air assault forces destroyed a column of Russian airborne troops consisting of 14 armored vehicles heading to storm positions. The lost 5 BMDs, a tank, a BTR. Fighting continues in the Kursk region. Russian troops organized plans to attack the 47th Brigade. However, Russian troops were repulsed by drones. FPV operators, in cooperation with spotters and aerial reconnaissance teams, relentlessly attacked the Russians. Russian tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, ATVs, Kamaz trucks, burrows, and bunkers were destroyed. Ukrainian FPV operators fought against Russian troops in the Kursk region. If you can use FPV drones correctly, you can destroy almost all vehicles. In the Kursk region, drones of the 47th Mechanized Brigade are destroying all tanks, armored personnel carriers, motorcycles, and cars in their path. It takes a lot of skill to hit moving vehicles with pinpoint accuracy. These very small FPV drones are very fast and highly maneuverable. FPV drone pilots are working great as always. Would you like to be a FPV drone pilot, or have you ever used a drone in your life? It is difficult to use drones, but it is much more difficult to use FPV drones. It requires a lot of talent, attention, skill, and steady work. Especially if you are a military drone pilot, you can even change the course of the war. Javelin in the area of Seledovo liquidates the Russian tank T-72B3M. How resistant do you think Russian tanks are to incoming attacks? Is it normal for them to explode with every missile or drone attack? Write in the comments. Ukrainian FPV drones hit the targets they detect with precision strikes. It is almost impossible to escape from FPV drones. Because drones do not get tired, they do not take a break. If you are confronted with a professional drone operator, you will be lucky to escape. How much have FPV drones affected the course of the war? Is there any way to stop FPV drones? What measures can soldiers take to avoid or neutralize drones? One Russian BMP was completely destroyed, as always, with only one FPV drone. It is possible to destroy these vehicles, which cost thousands or even millions of dollars, with cheap drones. Russian tanks and Russian vehicles, which became easy in open terrain, were destroyed one by Ukrainian FPV drone pilots. Subscribe and like the video for this and similar videos. Most expensive target in the history of FPV application has been destroyed. Warriors of the Wings to Hell unit of the 103rd Territorial Defense Brigade in the Kupiansky direction set fire to and destroyed a Russian Tor anti-aircraft missile system using several of your drones. The cost of this is from $24 million and more. That's over 900 million hryvnias. This is at least 4 times or more than we have collected for almost 14,000 FPVs in total. For the operation in the Kursk region, the Russians have organized a large contingent. The assault team includes more than 50 soldiers, nearly 10 armored vehicles, and more than 5 tanks. The plan was to attack Ukrainian positions and destroy warehouses, armored vehicles, howitzers, bunkers, and tanks. When the Russian units set off for the attack, the 47th Mechanized Brigade realized the whole plan and counterattacked with drones and howitzers. Ukrainian defense forces used all their strength to push the Russian unit back. Reconnaissance drones reported the positions of tanks and armored vehicles to artillery units. At the same time, attack drones quickly mobilized and started attacking the vehicles. 3 tanks worth $6.6 million destroyed. 7 infantry fighting vehicles worth $7.7 million were destroyed. Some of the crews inside the vehicles could not get out of the vehicles. Some of them hid in forested areas. In the Kursk region, Ukrainian drones are burning Russian ammunition, supplies, and various military equipment in forested areas. This fire-breathing drone is used to destroy anything hidden in the woods. What do you think about the direction drones are taking the war in general? After the Russians successfully struck the planes once in the Dnipro region, they attempted it again. The Orlan with the latest arrived, filmed a pompous video of them hitting the Su-25 and started circulating it everywhere, but people online discovered it was a mock-up. Firstly, it's about the cockpit and its strange color and shape. Secondly, in the footage, you can see that the wings overlap the air intakes, although on a normal Su-25, the wing merges into the air intake. A Russian infantryman hiding alone in a hut was shocked when a drone suddenly exploded. Fortunately, the drone exploded in the wall, so the soldier was slightly injured. He got up and left. The tank turret toss world record is being disputed. We have kindly been informed of this competition entry from April 2023 by the 116th Brigade of the TRO. The judges are currently evaluating the various. The turret can be seen landing after a 8-second flight. Using S equals UT plus 1/2 AT squared, this could have reached a height of 78.5 meters, which would exceed the 76 meters of the previous entry. In the Kursk region, The UAV battalion of the Nikolaev Marine Corps destroyed several Russian tanks and armored infantry vehicles. These operators, who destroyed tanks and armored vehicles with precision strikes in one go, trained for many hours. They also destroyed mortars, tents, and bunkers with UAVs. Russian troops suffered a lot of damage in these successive attacks. Russian troops had hidden drones in the bunker. However, Ukrainian FPV drones discovered this and blew up the bunker. After the explosion, a soldier fled into the woods but was attacked by a FPV drone. It is almost impossible to hide from drones either outdoors or indoors, because thanks to the advanced heat-sensitive cameras of the drones, all kinds of vehicles and living things are caught by the cameras. As a result of successive drone attacks, Russian troops suffered a lot of losses. Be sure to write your thoughts in the comments. SBUs work with FPV drones. Among the destroyed vehicles, there was a rare specimen, the Terminator. How long do you think Russian tanks can withstand Ukrainian FPV drones? Do you think Russian tanks are doomed? Don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to like the video. This morning, the Russians tried to break through the positions of the 15th Karadag Brigade south of Selidovo. All the equipment was destroyed. The infantry was eliminated. There is replenishment of the exchange fund. If any of the Russian tanks and any of the Ukrainian tanks face to face, which tank would win? To support our channel, you can click the join button or send a super donation. A drone attack on a gas station in the Zaporizhia region. A huge flame rose into the sky as gasoline and diesel tanks exploded. This station was supplying gasoline to Russian vehicles and crews. There was an FPV drone attack on this Russian vehicle. However, it received minor damage. A second FPV drone attack was made on the vehicle that tried to escape by turning back, and the vehicle was neutralized. The BTR-82 is a modern Russian-made armored personnel carrier. It is an improved version of the Soviet-era BTR-80. It is designed for both ground and amphibious operations and is currently in military use in many countries. The BTR-82 was destroyed by fire after a FPV drone attack. Russian tank convoy units are moving quickly to attack Ukrainian positions. It's very hot and close, and the troops are engaging. Air and ground troops from both countries are engaged in intense fighting. Meanwhile, Ukrainian drone operators, working in concert with artillery units, are firing heavy artillery shells at Russian tanks. At the same time, Ukrainian FPV drones are attacking Russian tanks one after another. Russian soldiers whose tanks are damaged are hiding in bunkers and wooded areas. Soldiers of the 110th Separate Mechanized Brigade destroyed a Russian armored column near Novi Komar. It is not enough for the occupiers to deliver ammunition to the positions, because even when they succeed, our soldiers destroy their warehouses. 128 OGS HBR works in the Zaporizhzhia direction. The detonation of a Russian tank's ammunition supply as a result of an FPV drone strike in the Donetsk region. The Russian vehicle, which wanted to advance towards Ukrainian positions, was attacked while continuing on its way after dropping off the soldiers. Although the soldiers got out of the vehicle and tried to hide in forested areas and shelters, they could not escape the drone attack. Drones can attack day and night, because drones have night vision and heat-sensitive cameras. In this way, it can easily see its target and carry out an accurate attack. Hiding in ruined houses does not seem enough to escape drones. Even if you are in an armored vehicle or tank, you may suddenly be attacked by a drone. If the drone is able to attack the engine part of the vehicle, it can cause considerable damage and completely destroy the vehicle. After the Russian infantry fighting vehicle was spotted by Ukrainian paratroopers, it was immediately attacked in quick succession. The Russian vehicle, which then tried to hide in the bushes, was rendered unusable as a result of repeated drone strikes. US APC and Russian BMP vehicles were neutralized from these attacks. HIMARS cluster munitions operation. The Russians tried to storm this section of the front for several days in a row. Thanks to the efforts of the headquarters of the 225th Separate Assault Battalion, an operation was developed that provided for creating conditions for inflicting fire damage and clearing this sector. The key point was the precise timing of each stage of the action. When the enemy, believing in his success, pulled significant forces into this square, they were targeted with cluster munitions from HIMARS. Russian vehicles and tanks continue to explode. It is almost impossible to escape Ukrainian FPV drones. How many people can do it? Ukrainian FPV drones continue to attack Russian vehicles unabated. Who do you think will be the winner of this war? More importantly, when do you think this war will end? One armored personnel carrier and one infantry fighting vehicle were destroyed. Another infantry fighting vehicle was hit. A Chinese golf car and tank were burned and infantry was packed. FPV drones have destroyed the Russian tank T-90M Breakthrough. The crew of the Samosud unit of the UAV Shark 11, brigade of the NGU on the left bank of Kherson region engaged the tank when it was trying to attack our soldiers. The soldiers of the 406th Artillery Brigade detected the vehicle using the Shark complex. Operators of Ukraine's 73rd Naval Special Forces Center launched a massive drone strike on Russian positions, vehicles, and shelters in Pidstepny on Kherson's occupied left bank. In the direction of Kramatorsk, Ukrainian drone operators launched a FPV drone attack on a Russian armored vehicle and destroyed it. They also dropped bombs from the air. The moving vehicle was attacked by a drone and had to pull over to the side of the road. It was then completely destroyed as a result of the bombs dropped one after the other. Destruction of Russian armored vehicles in Volchansk by your dragons. Work of soldiers of the Falcon Squad 57 Motorized Infantry Brigade. In the direction of Toretsk, tanks of the 12th Azov Brigade attacked Russian positions and positions. In areas where artillery fire is difficult and drones are difficult to attack, the tanks maneuvered well and launched powerful attacks. The Azov Brigade has played an important role in the conflict in eastern Ukraine and has attracted international attention, both for its military achievements and ideological debates. It was established in 2014 as a volunteer militia to fight against pro-Russian separatists and was later incorporated into the National Guard of Ukraine. Powerful footage of the shooting of a column of Russian armored vehicles by a Ukrainian tank of the 58th Separate Motorized Infantry Brigade, named after Hetman Ivan Vyhovsky, near Staromlynivka in the Berdyansk direction. We know this very well. It is almost impossible for tanks to escape from FPV drones. So if a Russian tank and a Ukrainian tank face each other, which tank can defeat the other? Which tank is stronger than the other? FPV operators of the 3rd Assault Division blow up enemy weapons, shelters, and warehouses in the Kharkiv direction. During recent assault operations, the Russians used a lightly armored communication vehicle that also served as a repeater as it was thought, our scouts found, and Fpv destroyed the field communication point. A nighttime assault in the Kupiansk direction was repelled. The Achilles Battalion from the 92nd Assault Brigade, paratroopers from the 77th Airmobile Brigade, and National Guardsmen from the Burovai Brigade worked together. They destroyed MTLBs, BMPs, and disabled 5 BMPs, 4 T-72 tanks, 1 MTLB, and 1 APC. Fighters of the 60th Brigade showed the work of tank crews on the enemy in Ivanovka. The Russian mechanized assault on the Kurakiv direction was crushed. The 79th Air Assault Brigade destroyed 2 tanks and 6 armored vehicles with infantry, and another enemy tank was damaged. In Apsheronsk, Krasnodar Krai, a fire broke out at a transformer substation overnight, burning brightly. Approximately 55,000 Russians were left without power. Russian soldiers whose tanks caught fire planned to hide in a bunker to escape the drones. But the drones were following them step by step. After they entered the bunker, the drones exploded. Other drones attacked Russian vehicles trying to rescue Russian soldiers from the area. Ukrainian paratroopers carried out a drone attack on a vehicle in the direction of Kharkiv. The infantrymen in the vehicle drove away, entering a densely forested area. A second drone attack was carried out on the vehicle left by the infantrymen, and the vehicle was destroyed. A drone operator who noticed a Russian vehicle abandoned on the road but in working condition attacked and destroyed it. Nine Russian drone operators were killed by a drone strike in Okaratyne-Pokrovsk sector. Do you think the Russian soldiers made it out of that building alive? Defense forces in the south neutralized the Russian 9K317 Buk M3 air defense system. These night flashes were created with the help of Russian BM-21 Grad, a tank and an infantry fighting vehicle, which were blown up by fighters of the 68th Separate Hunter Brigade. Russian troops trying to advance in the Kursk region were caught by Ukrainian FPV drone operators. Ukrainian attack drone operators went to the coordinates given by reconnaissance drones and attacked Russian armored vehicles. A Russian tank burned down after several FPV drone attacks. The Russian crew, whose vehicles were destroyed, tried to hide in bunkers, shelters, and ruined houses. However, Ukrainian drones continued to attack one after another. 2 Russian soldiers got inside the damaged BMP to hide from the FPV drone, but they did not know that it is impossible to escape from the FPV drone. And finally, it happened. Ukrainian troops, supported by 2 tanks, storm positions in the Kharkiv direction and take a large group of Russian soldiers prisoner. Ukrainian forces, using FPV drones and artillery, are repelling a massive Russian assault near the village of Plekova in the Kursk region. Almost all vehicles and crew of the Russian convoy are destroyed. These expensive Russian vehicles were destroyed by seemingly simple but very effective FPV drones. Of course, Ukraine does not only carry out drone attacks, but FPV drones are a low-cost, very fast, and very effective weapon. It is almost impossible for soldiers to escape by running or hiding. Rayrog Battalion of the 24th Separate Mechanized Brigade destroyed the Russian T-80 BVM tank with your thick drones. How resistant do you think Russian tanks are against FPV drones? How do you think tanks can develop a defense mechanism against drones? Soldiers of the Rayrog Battalion destroyed 4 T-62 tanks and 3 BMP-2s in the Bakhmut direction with FPV drones. Ukrainian kamikaze drones hit Russian Bak-M3 and Bak-M1 air defense systems in the eastern direction. The Ukrainian drone operators unit follows a Russian tank on a lonely road with a FPV drone using fiber optic communication. Then it accelerates, gets in front of it, and attacks without waiting. Why do you think this operator chose to attack the tank from the front? Destruction of a rare Russian Nona SVK self-propelled artillery on a BTR-80 chassis. With fewer than 20 units left in Russia's arsenal, this one was destroyed by an FPV drone pilot from the Birds of Magyar unit. Ukrainians in an M2A2 Bradley IFV paired with an Abrams tank are firing at Russian positions in the Pokrovsky direction. Last week, SBU soldiers were destroyed. 10 tanks, 33 BBM, 18 artillery systems, 4 air defense systems, and an EW, 219 vehicles, 25 UAVs, and 22 antennas, 148 fortifications, 2 warehouses with ammunition, 176 Russian soldiers. 44th Separate Artillery Brigade destroyed 2 enemy self-propelled artillery units, 257 Pion, multiple rocket launcher system BM-21 Grad, and self-propelled artillery unit 2S-19 MST-S. Adjustments were made using UAV Shark. M142, HIMARS destroys the Russian SuperCam UAV calculation. Russian tank BMP-3 blew up in a big way. Do you think the crew is alive? The Russian 203mm self-propelled gun Pion and its TZM were successfully deployed as a result of the defeat of 30 DPICM cluster missiles from the Rs 3 billion HIMARS. '47th Separate Mechanized Brigade has shown the combat operation of M1 Abrams tanks in the Avdiivka direction. Tank shells were fired at Russian positions at close range. However, the Russian soldiers have already left the positions. I assume that the positions and bunkers were bombed again as a precautionary measure. In this short video, I want to show how Ukrainian soldiers spend their day, what they do, and how they carry out their operations. Could you join the war? Were medieval wars harder or modern wars harder? Write your thoughts in the comments. Ukrainian FPV drone paratroopers carried out a well-calculated attack on bunkers and warehouses. Even though the drones did not penetrate the bunker, they terrorized the people inside. The bunkers contain infantry and various military equipment. Since the explosives on the drones are not enough to blow up the bunkers, they cannot completely destroy the bunkers. A Ukrainian MiG-29 pilot strikes a Russian communications command post in Kriniki with an AASM hammer bomb. The Ukrainian robot rarely works in the Pokrovsky direction. There were more than 10 occupiers in the tunnel. In the Pokrovsky direction, soldiers of the 68th Separate Jaeger Brigade destroy a Russian armored personnel carrier with the help of your drones. An attempt by the Russians to break through from Mariinka was stopped by FPV drones of the 33rd OMBR destroyed. 2 IFV, 2 tanks and infantry. Do you think medieval wars were more brutal, or modern wars are more brutal and horrible? Leave your thoughts in the comments. For this moped rider in the Kursk region, this trip was the last. Your drone was effectively used by soldiers of the 3rd DSHB of the 80th Galician Brigade. T-90 cooks off after taking a blast from a drone. A HIMARS rocket struck the enemy installation, destroying it along with the crew of occupiers. The Buk M2 is designed to intercept aircraft, helicopters, drones, and cruise missiles. In addition to the launcher, the system includes a command post, a detection and targeting station, and a radar system. The Buk M2 can shoot down fighter jets within a 50-kilometer radius and cruise missiles at a range of up to 26 kilometers. Four Russian tanks and vehicles worth millions of dollars were destroyed with only a few $100s worth of FPV drones. FPV drones have become almost the most powerful, fastest, and most effective weapons in modern land warfare. Fast, powerful, and almost unstoppable. What do you think? This BMD-2 went to prevent the Cossacks from liberating the Kursk region. Boys in forgot to close the door and caught the drone in the face. In the northern direction, Ukrainian border guards destroyed a Russian infantry fighting vehicle. The drone operator entered the vehicle with the door open and ensured that the vehicle was destroyed by fire. Ukrainian drone operators destroyed the Russian cars they spotted one by one. Some vehicles were destroyed while in motion. It is a very difficult task, especially to completely destroy a moving vehicle, because vehicles have sensitive points. If you manage to hit the vehicles at sensitive points, then you can completely destroy them. Otherwise, you will only cause damage. That's why FPV operators receive hours of training. Heavy unmanned aerial vehicle Vampire of border guards of the Kramatorsk detachment brought warmth to the occupiers in the Vovchan direction at night. That's how the Russians raked out the soldiers of the 57th Motorized Infantry Brigade and your drones in Volchansk. Strikes on armored vehicles, including hidden ones, and also with meat dynamic protection. Destruction of Russian armored vehicles on the Avdiivka direction. Seeing his friend blown up, the other Russian tank backed away and the room was blown up. The 1st Marine Battalion of the 36th Marine Brigade destroyed a Russian armored carrier with FGM-148 Javelin ATGM. The armed forces of Ukraine attacked the Russian Marine oil terminal in Feodosia, occupied Crimea, General Staff. The Feodosia terminal is used in particular for the needs of the Russian army. Another defeat of a Russian helicopter using a FPV drone. Soldiers of the M2 unit of the Special Operations Center of the SBU, working in the Kursk region of Russia, were able to hit another Russian helicopter with a FPV drone. This time, the Mi-8 was hit in the tail by a drone with a powerful fragmentation warhead. The further fate of the Mi-8 is unknown, but it stopped operating in the area. M142, HIMARS hits Russian 39H6, Kosta-2E2 radar station in Donetsk region. In order to break through the defense of the 79th Tavrian Assault Brigade in the area of the village of Kostiantynivka in Donetsk region, the occupiers threw 11 armored fighting vehicles with infantry, supported by 8 tanks, into battle. A Russian anti-tank vehicle in the Kursk region hit a road mine while traveling and was destroyed by a massive explosion. Spectacular footage of the defeat of the Russian BTR-82A by a strike from the Javelin ATGM in the Donetsk region. One long-range Lancet soldiers of the Central Security Service of Ukraine within the framework of the Heavenly Russo Riz program shot down a kamikaze drone Izdalie 51, which was flying to attack our people. In occupied Feodosia, drones hit not an ordinary oil depot, but an important transshipment hub for Russians, an oil port that can receive tankers with oil products all year round, store them and supply them to the entire occupied Crimea. In the event of serious damage, the logistics of oil products in the occupied Crimea will be shifted to railways and highways, which will greatly complicate it.
Что-то взрывается.
Another rare Russian reconnaissance UAV Merlin was shot down. Destruction of Russian BM-21 Grad in the Zaporizhzhia region. The liquidation of Russian BMP and an armored personnel carrier on the Zaporizhzhia front. What do you think about the place of FPV drones in modern warfare? Russores are ready to fight. Russians are storming our positions every day. The company of the 79th Air Assault Brigade of the Perun Group, together with other comrades, is giving a worthy rebuff to the invaders. The paratroopers of the 79th repulsed the night assault on their positions. Russian occupiers resort to testing new tactics. However, the aerial reconnaissance of the Maroon Berets from Mykolaiv detected the approach of the enemy column in time, and the enemy was hit by fire. As a result, the enemy lost 4 pieces of equipment and retreated.